All right, thanks everyone. I don't know about the news being good. We'll start with the good news. How's that sound? This is U.S. net farm income over the last 25 years. It goes back, or 20 years, I'm sorry. It goes all the way back to 2005. Then the forecast for 2025, the year we just finished. This is calendar year. $180 billion is basically what the USDA said back in September. That's the second highest it's ever been over the last 50 years, up 37% from last year, 45% above the 20-year average. We're doing great. What's the problem? No problems. That's what that sort of says. Now we'll look at the revenue side. This is what the USDA calls cash receipts. On the left is crops, on the right is livestock. This is all of U.S. agriculture again. This is all the big crops like corn and soybeans, et cetera, all the broccoli and apples. On the other side is all the eggs and every animal, every product we have. Crops are down. At the national level, the top bar is 24, the next bar is 25. We don't have 26 yet, obviously, and these aren't forecasts. This is back in September. Corn's down, crops overall is down 2.5% in terms of cash receipts going to farms. Corn's down almost 4%, soybeans is down over 7%, wheat is down almost 10%. You go on the livestock side, though, things are great. Up 11% from 24 to 25. And what you'll notice as well, the scale has changed. Some years these are on the same scale, but on the left there, corn is at a little over 60 billion. You double that, you get 120 billion. That's about where the cattle and calves are. That you can see the scale of livestock. Right now, over half of the farm economy in terms of cash receipts is livestock stuff. That used to be more closer to half and half. We've become livestock dependent. Cattle and calves up 16% from 24 to 25. Dairy is the only one that's the only not green one on there, and it's down just a tiny bit. Broilers up a bunch. Eggs are way up. Both of these we're going to hear from the people later. These trends in livestock aren't going to continue as much for dairy and for eggs. Eggs are down. I was just out talking to folks, and they're definitely coming down on the prices. Now let's look at the cost side. We're going to focus in on corn and soybeans. I got the other crops up here. These are the USDA Economic Research Service budgets. They use ERS budgets they use for national level. The bright green is the 2026 projection. Then you go backwards all the way to 2020, and you change colors. Corn there in the first one, $917 per acre, up 3%. Soybeans, $678, up a little over 3%. Wheat and oats, again, different numbers, but a little over 3%. This is the cost of production at these crops level. UW Extension has these budgets. They're talking $998 for 26. That's a little bit more than the USDA's budget because it's Wisconsin. We're not always the lowest cost producer for corn and beans. Soybeans, $700, almost a little above the USDA numbers, but up 7% for beans, up 11% for corn. So you can see definitely some cost pressure. Where's that cost pressure coming from? These slides moves around a little bit. That red bar is supposed to be the middle where zero is. Where it's going down is interest and fuel. Interest rates are creeping down, so interest rates, the cost of interest per acre for corn and soybeans is down a little bit. Energy costs and for diesel fuel is down. A bunch in the middle there up a little bit, but where's the big growth? Land costs, fertilizer costs, and machinery. The yellow is the soybeans and the green is the corn. You can see land costs are both up over $6 an acre at the national level. Fertilizer, the big green is for nitrogen on the corn because but also you can see the P and K. Machinery is a big one, over $10 an acre increase in machinery costs. There's a lot of costs going in the machinery side there. So look at Wisconsin here. Land rents continue to increase. On the left is the USDA numbers that come out in August. This is the average crop rental rate in the state of Wisconsin, $166. It's up 2.5% from the 24 to 25. This is of August. 26, we don't know yet, but I'm guessing you can see the numbers are creeping up still. Here's the top 10 counties. These are all over $200 an acre. These are the counties, and for a bunch of them, we have the change from 24 to 25 in that far right column. But down the southwestern corner, Lafayette and Grant, you can see those numbers really high, fairly flat. But here, Dane County, South Central, Rock, you got some of these other counties up 4, 5, 6, 7%. There's this definitely push upward in land rents. Some of our big counties, it's flat, but some of our other big counties as well, it's up. So definitely some pressure on those land increases like we saw in those USDA budgets. Here's the cropland values. This is the cost per acre to buy land. On the left is the USDA number over the last several years. And what you see, $72.50 is the state average. That's up 6.6% from August of 24 to August of 25. Land values continue to increase. That really helps farm balance sheets. On the right is the Chicago Federal Reserve Bank. They have the ag letter, and about the southeastern two-thirds of Wisconsin is in the 7th District of Chicago, and they put this report out. These are the quarterly numbers. The top number is the third quarter from July of 25 to October of 25. The bottom number is the year over year. What you see is things are slowing down, but year over year, the bottom number, they're up 4% in Wisconsin. The U.S., this is for good farmland. You can see our neighbors, 6% Indiana, 4% Illinois, Iowa, flat. And then the last quarter there is lower. It's slowing down. The land value increase we've been seeing seems to be slowing down relative to what we've seen in years past. It's overall, the district is up about 3%, but the third quarter flat is the district average there in the green box. So on the other side is the input side. This is some recent data from the North Dakota State University's Ag Econ department has a new ag trade center. This is the impact of tariffs. Agriculture paid about $1 billion in new tariffs between February and October of 25. So, and this is where they come from. On the right is it's $958 million, so they're rounding up to $1 billion. And you can see the 4 categories there. Ag chemicals, so pesticides, machinery at over $530 million, and then fertilizers a little over $100 million, and then seed. And on the left is the monthly numbers. The colors are hard to see, but up on the top there is the machinery one. And think back to that machinery cost increase we saw in those annual budgets that the USDA put out. These are contributing to these and these other ones. At the bottom there is their estimate of the impact on percentage, how much we're talking about. So that $273.4 million in tariffs, that's 1.3% of ag expenditures on chemicals during that same time period. So you can kind of see they're putting upward pressure. They don't have one for machinery because a bunch of machinery is things like depreciation and stuff like that. So it's really hard to, there's no market. You don't write a check to the Depreciation Corporation of America. And then they have the thing at the bottom there, how they don't capture all the machinery costs. These are the new machinery, a complete piece of equipment. They're not including steel, aluminum, and parts and stuff like that. So that's where they get the $1 billion. So these tariffs are having an effect in helping push up some of these costs. So now let's look at the dark side here, margins. We're looking at just at corn and soybeans. These are our neighbors here, Northern Illinois, Iowa State, and UW Extension budgets. This is the cost. Take your cost of production, divide by your expected yield. This is the price you need to sell it for to break even, to cover your full cost of production. Northern Illinois is as close as we get to sort of what I think of as southern Wisconsin, and the UW Extension budget is a state average. You can see these numbers. Northern Illinois, University of Illinois, staying with that 490, 460. Soybeans down a little bit. Their corn after corn is always more costly. You got more pesticide costs, more fertilizer, and you get, on average, a little bit lower yield. Corn after soy does better. But you can see Wisconsin's a higher value or higher cost producer because we're not an I state. That's why we're not a major in terms relative to Illinois and Iowa. We're not in that same league with 10 million acres of corn and 10 million acres of soybeans. But our costs are high. We'll see these are the projected prices. The 25 crop, which is about a third of it's been sold so far in terms of the marketing year, 410. 1020, 1030 for beans in 25, 26 prices aren't a whole lot different. That's the cost on the left. There's what they're going to be selling it for. We're talking negative margins. The I states, Iowa and Illinois, are much closer to their break-even prices. But the average Wisconsin farm, these margins are terrible. Where it's a negative margin, about $1 per bushel for corn and $2.50 for soybeans, that's 25. The 26 crop, they're going to be planting soon, $1.50 for corn, negative margin, $3.40 for the soybeans. These are tough. I emphasize these are the full cost of production. You're paying for the land, you're paying yourself and management costs. These include all those opportunity costs in there and trying to capture all the hauling, the drying, and everything for the Wisconsin numbers. So it's pretty bleak out there for crop producers. Cash flow has become a serious issue for many Wisconsin farms. You can really see that in the data. We'll have one of the ag lenders on this afternoon's panels. So this is from the 7th District again, the map on the right there, up on the top. The green line is loan repayment index, and the orange or red line is a loan demand. I think of it like a revolving line of credit, a credit card the farm has, and if you pay your loan off each month, your credit card off each month, you're making loan repayment. The green index is high because you're making your loan payments. Each month you're paying it down. Red is high when you're not making those payments. You need more cash. I'm only paying my revolving line of credit off every 3-4 months. It's not paid off regularly. You can see this index through the third quarter of 25. The loan demand is high, loan repayment is low. We haven't seen it this low since well before COVID during those tight margin years. This is, to me, is a sign of financial stress. And Wisconsin farmers, it's the cash flow issues we're seeing. The other part is the Chapter 12 bankruptcy filings. This is the federal court data. I haven't put up these in a long time. This is the Farm Bureau has a nice slide, so I just put this one up. This is all the way through 2024. We don't have the end of the year 2025 yet, but I looked as of September 30th nationally, 293 Chapter 12 bankruptcies in the U.S. So they're up. That would be the number coming on. And the next year, we have the same. Here's Wisconsin. Before the pandemic, we were leading the nation, and then it went really low. I just looked up the September 30th, we're at 13 in the state. And what I always think of these as, for every one of these, there's 5, 10, 15, 20, I don't know how, there's a certain number of farms who have reorganized, done a lot of stuff to get their finances in shape so they don't have to file bankruptcy. So these are the ones that have had to for various reasons or have chosen to file bankruptcy. There's a lot of farmers out there that are dealing with cash flow issues, and those numbers are up again. So what's the government response? This is the USDA data again. It goes back. This is direct payments to farmers over the last several years, 5 years, plus the forecast for 2025. During the pandemic, that's those big in 2020, the world was ending. Remember, the shelves were emptying. We were euthanizing animals because we couldn't slaughter them. Milk was being dumped. So the government threw a lot of money at agriculture. You got the pandemic, that's the CFAP payments, and that maroon color. Orange is the PPP loans. And then there's some other programs in there. But what you see this year is 25, what we just finished, a big gray box programs. A lot of these ad hoc programs, we're throwing money at the problem. This is the second highest farm direct payments to farmers have been in the history of the nation. What are they in Wisconsin, or in the U.S.? ECAP pushed out $10 billion, starting, well, $9.3 billion is out so far, $235 million to Wisconsin. That was in March. SDRP, the phase one payments or stage one payments started going in July. We pushed about $6 billion out nationally, $135 million here in Wisconsin. We got a phase two or stage two is starting here again, so there'll be some more farmers getting money. That'll be coming out. We had our Farm Bill program. ARC made payments in November. They would have come a little earlier, but the shutdown happened. $117 million here in the state, $2.6 billion. And the FBA, Farmer Bridge Assistance, those $12 billion have been authorized. Supposed to start at the end of February. And so I did the little math there. At the max, if everybody in the state of Wisconsin claimed it, we'd be at $266 million. It'll be something like 260 or something like that. And then if all the projections so far for ARC and PLC payments to come in October of 26 is about $240 million here in Wisconsin, $13 billion nationally. What you'll notice, these are all ad hoc programs except for ARC and PLC. From March of 25 to March of 26, we pushed out $30 billion from programs that did not exist the year before. You couldn't plan on this. All of a sudden you wake up, oh, there's a new ECAP. Here comes some money. You didn't know when you planned your corn that's what's going to happen or anything like that. Wisconsin has received $750 million from these programs. About 84% of that spending is ad hoc from a program that did not exist the year before. So this is the concern to me, is these ad hoc programs. Negative margins for 25 and 26. We're going to hear about livestock. I think it's weakening for some of them. Working capital is gone. Cash flow is a serious issue for many farms. Most vulnerable, I think, are the highly leveraged and lots of rented land. Those are not opportunity costs for these farmers. You've got to make your mortgage payments or your debt payments. You've got to pay those rents. If you own the land, you don't have a lot of debt, you can absorb those opportunity costs and live off your equity. The other group is older and no heir. They're not willing to wait until the next time commodity prices are high and they can make some money again. They're thinking, I'm done. They're just going to sell out instead of losing equity over the next several years until the prices are high again. Government payments help, but they don't solve this high cost, low price problem we're facing. The short-term fix to reduces incentives to innovate and to remain competitive. I really think these programs are reducing these incentives to innovate and remain competitive. That's my worry as an economist. Ag is sort of there's large political issues, fights going on about what to do at the policy level, and I think ag is the victim, and what they're doing is throwing money at us right now. And I think my worries are not really, they're insulating us from that innovation, the incentives to innovate. Agriculture is a global competition that we have traditionally dominated, but the rest of the world's been catching up. We can't rest on our laurels anymore. Policies to improve margins are reducing costs and increasing yields. Tariffs would help reduce costs. We've seen some of those push up on small amounts on all the different costs for a lot of inputs. The other on the innovation to increase yields, that's things like the on-farm research and research funding for innovation. We've got programs here in the state on-farm research and innovation. We do a lot of that here on campus. And we also have demand increasing policies. We talked about biofuel mandates. We talked about food programs, WIC and SNAP, some of those kind of programs. Part of that is a demand enhancement, the school lunch program. We've seen the food pyramid reorganized. But the other big one is obviously exports, ways to increase demand, help with the prices, a federal policy, state policies to increase exports. Then the last one I've been hearing is, talking to farmers out there, is they're starting to wonder if we're going to start doing land retirement programs, increasing CRP to reduce the supply, the planted acres, or even bringing out old programs like payment in kind, where farmers receive grain from the national stockpile instead of planting crops. And so we've got grain in kind for taking acres out of production. I haven't heard about supply reduction, land retirement programs like this for a long time. The last one I want to show here is the trade balance data. And looks like this slide survived the process. Looks like the gray line is the zero, and this is our trade balance for large types of commodities over the last 25 years, or through 2000 until 2024. And what you'll see is, and this is just agricultural trade, and these are all billions of dollars. If it's above this, that means we're a net exporter, and if it goes below the gray line, we're a net importer. And this is measured in dollars, and so it's not quantities. What you see, you got bulk, that's grains, that's corn and soybeans primarily. The next line down is the semi-processed, that's live animals, but also fresh fruits and vegetables. And what you'll see there is bulk product, corn and soybeans are staying flat, high, above 40 to 60 billion, 70 billion in that region over the last few. But you've seen our fresh fruits and vegetables from being a net exporter, we moved into being a net importer a few years ago. The next one down is the raw products. I'm sorry, I've got the wrong line. Semi-processed is the next line. That's feed, fiber, flour, soybean meal, as fats and oils. That's that one. That's going to be think soybean meal there, and flour. The next one down is raw products. I'm sorry. That's the fresh fruits and vegetables. We've been a net importer of that for a long time, over the last 25 years. And the other one is the fully processed stuff. That's where that's where cheese fits in. We have been a net importer in terms of dollars for exports since the beginning. So since the beginning of this data here. So what you see there is what we're really good at in agricultural trade is exporting the cheap stuff, corn and soybeans, the cheap grains. And what have we done? We've become a net importer of all the higher value stuff. And we were maintaining something, but you really see how that trade balance has got more and more negative in agriculture, and what we're not good at anymore is producing stuff that we can sell internationally. So I'm done there. Thank you.